And anybody on the news would not tell us the truth. We thought for sure that there was no way that we could, they would be telling us a lie or would be covering up the truth. Of course, we found out later in the Vietnam War that they did that a lot, and they covered up the truth a lot of times, and whatever. So, tell you what I'm going to do when I come up here. I'm going to kind of make a little cut up here, just like this. I don't have to make that cut in his little, and then I'm going to come over like this, so I kind of have that cut. And so we all believe that. And let me tell you something. If you said, well, I don't believe Walter Cronkite, I mean, you were shunned. You were a troublemaker, You were an outcast. Let's put it that way. Because that man was dearly loved and dearly, I told you, he could have said anything and people would have believed it. So did he lie about things? Well, he could have. He knew that people were going to believe him anyway. And they did. They believed everything he said. So the time, and like I said, this is only 70 years ago, which is not really a long time. We lived as outcasts in a world of information. Now information is available to anyone. I mean, not just a few, but I mean anyone. You can get on that computer and you can find anything. And it's like back then, if a man went to work on something and couldn't figure out how to do it, he didn't have YouTube to go to and show you how to do it, in other words. He just had to figure it out himself. So that was what went on at that time. So that was just a part of life and all those other things. So anyway, so as everything progressed, and like I said, as everything progressed, it progressed also in wood carving and in whittling and things like that. Look at the knives you have today. I mean, look at the knives. I remember when if I ever saw anybody whittling or most of the time it was whittling back then, but anyway, they had pocket knives and they did, or knives that they made. They didn't have any fancy knives to use. But nowadays, it's a whole different ball game. And so look at the CNC machines and all that stuff that they can actually just make stuff with. Just absolutely amazing. Here we go as we go, our little man. Just absolutely amazing that these things can be accomplished. So, are things, as we say, in wood carving, have they changed? Yes. Because now the knowledge, let's put it this way, if you want to learn whittling and wood carving, if you can't learn it, then you really don't want to. What I'm saying is not I'm talking about being perfect. I'm talking about the fact that the material is out there. There is so much material out there. There are so many videos now that people are making them and showing you how. You have the Wood Carving Academy where people like Dave Stetson and Ryan Olson and those type of people are teaching you step by step. And so if to say, well, I don't have any information to do it. Of course you do. You have that information. Now, we didn't have that information. If a man wanted to learn wood carving or whittling, he had to sit, as what I'm trying to do here with you, and we'd just sit and talk, and he would watch and learn how to whittle, and we'd instruct and stuff like that. But now you've got videos. You've got them galore. Every day you're getting somebody making a new video about wood carving, you know. And Doug Linker is using his format to help so many people. Wood Carving Illustrated, Lord, man, it's amazing what's going on with all this stuff. So people are so lucky today to have the information they have, and I kind of wish I had been born in this, you know, this generation to learn these type of things. Of course, I might have never learned wood carving if I'd been born in this generation, because there's not a lot of people taking it up. I admit that for sure. But I realized that that the time and place that people are doing things is quite, you know, just wonderful. So there's so much now, and and people just they have the ability to show you how now. I've told you that I have to look up a lot of things. There's several things that I have to look up sometimes, like I was going to put some cabin filters in on my Nissan Frontier. I didn't know how to do it, and so I got on YouTube and looked, and they showed you how to do it, and shoot, I went and did it. You know, it's just, now you can't just go work on a transmission, you know, I mean, that takes specialty, and you know, especially in today's cars. But it's pretty amazing what you can do with all that stuff, in other words. And so let me kind of knock off the edges here. It's pretty amazing what people can do. So you know, my grandmothers, and they're all gone, grandfathers, and but they lived in a time where people were very gullible. They were gullible, and they believed whatever they were told. And I mean, I think it's good that we do have information for us now, so that we're not just you know, going through the times. And remember, there were so many shocking things that happened during the 60s. It was a revolutionary time and it was a very disturbing time for most of us as we watched the national news and those things. And I remember one particular incident when I was a young man that just literally shocked me, because I think it really introduced the audience and all of us to the violence of we didn't if the violence did not occur in our small town, we didn't pay much attention to it. We really didn't. The national news, I mean, even the Vietnam War and stuff, but way before the Vietnam War happened in all those times, they had World War II, and you know, they had Korea, but there was very little said about Korea on the national news for a long time. I mean, you didn't find out a whole lot about it. But I remember the first story that I was ever introduced to violence as a young man was the story of a man by the name of Charles Whitman. Now, when I say that name, those of you that are older like me understood or remember Charles Whitman, because it had a very significant place in Texas history, especially because it happened at the University of Texas Tower. A young man by the name of Charles Whitman I don't exactly know no one actually knows what happened. Some people say he had a brain tumor, some people say he went through a lot of things, but he got on top of the Texas Tech, or University of Texas Tower, and he began shooting people. He went up there with a rifle, and he began shooting people. And this is not a carving lesson of telling bad things, but these were just things that during the 60s, like I said, that horrified all of us because we had never heard of the violence that much. And now we did with the riots, and at that time there's a lot of racial immigration, segregation, and those type of things going on. And there was some violence, but never to that degree that we heard. And he got up on top of the tower at University of Texas and just basically began shooting people. And I don't know, there was a lot of people that were killed, and just really very, very sad, Well, we're getting there on our little Gnome. And so he's not going to have any eyes, by the way, so we don't have to worry about that. That was a very tragic and horrible thing that we had come across, and it was. And they finally got up to the tower before he had killed. Police got up there. And I think there was a movie made on this. If you ever want to see the movie, it's called The Deadly Tower. And it was in the 60s that Charles Whitman did this. And also in the 60s, of course, we had the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. So we were, at that time, you are introduced, the world today is introduced to violence every day. They see the Chicago riots, they saw the riots with Antifa, they saw all that stuff. So I guess maybe it was a numbing effect. But when we saw that kind of stuff, it was just so shocking, we just couldn't believe that anything like this was going on in the world today. Because like I said, we were very naive. If something happened in our city, yes. But very few things like that happened in our city back at that time. So we knew it. Now, we were not inner city. We were more of a rural type city. So look at that. Here we go. Little Gnome. So it was different. Totally different. But as young people today, I mean, when I saw people whittling back years ago, or carving, they were using a pocket knife, and that's all they ever used. People just used pocket knives. That's what they did. So now we have these nice knives that we can use, and we have good wood that you can order and get and do things like that. I mean, it's sweet. It is to have this kind of stuff to enjoy our hobby. We have the time to enjoy our hobby, and where back then people didn't have a lot of time to enjoy their hobby, even though they did it. They didn't, and people were making a living wood carving back then. They were actually, because hand carved meant something, and people wanted something that was hand carved. And I think, once again, it's the same format. We did not have the stores that had all this stuff like Hobby Lobby and stuff like that. Maybe they were in the big cities. I didn't see them down here. So you just didn't go and find those things. Most people made them or made the stuff. So back then, hand carved or handmade was a joy. It was a joy to the people. And so they would buy them. But now, it's they can create things. Listen, I know the things at Hobby Lobby are not wood carvings, and I understand that. I do. But if it's what pleases if it's done with a machine and what pleases the customer and is cheap enough, bargain based, as we say, enough, then they like it, okay? Whether we like that or not, that's what they like. And I don't particularly like it, but because I'm a carver, I've seen some things. So, but to say that people don't, then fine. So that's kind of, throwing wood carving a curve, as we might say. We getting him sitting here talking, we getting him done. So it's different. Not just a different time, but it's a different era. It's a different way of thinking today. And this, I feel, is a issue with wood carving. That will it continue? I think it will continue, but I don't think it will continue near the scale that it was at one time. And will it, continue in the future? Who knows? Who knows? Because things like crafts are no longer, people still go, but it's mostly older people that go and buy the crafts. Younger people don't really get into it quite as much anymore as what we perceive. So, will it be able to hold up? And like I said, I've noticed many of the carving shops have closed down, and basically now in most places you have chainsaw carvers. I visited Pigeon Forge, where I remember at one time visiting that place. There was nothing but wood carving and big wood carving events and stuff like that. And they still have some events, but I'm talking about the fact that these were big things. These are things that the city themselves sponsored, so it was very, but once again, when the shops, and like I told you with Dollywood, when I went to Dollywood, and I was so excited because I had not visited the wood carving shop in Dollywood for ages. I mean, it was just, I had not visited them for a long time. And I remember all the great carvings that were in Dollywood. And when I went this time, I was just absolutely so disappointed because, they had a few relief carvings in there, but most of the stuff in there were you could see were foreign made. They were not hand carved and stuff like that. And if if you're familiar with with wood carving, you're familiar with things that are carved by hand and all that other stuff. So it was just really kind of heartbreaking when I went to the carving shop and saw the things that I saw in there, and I saw absolutely hardly any real carvings, and it was all these trinkets from China and places like that. And they were carvings. They were things that made you believe they were carvings. But once again, what in the world does most people know today are real carvings? They just don't know it. So they will buy whatever they think is hand carved, when in reality it's not. And we've talked about this several times. So you begin to understand everything. And that's not that we should give up carving, because people still love to watch it. They still love to enjoy. And that's why I say it's good to have fun. And we're not all trying to get rich off of it. and just to have fun and carve for some people and let them enjoy it. But just a matter of doing it. So it's so unique and it's so good. But yes, so the reason I go back a lot of times and just tell you about those times, and some of you that are watching, you already know this. You already know those times. And you have some very good memories of those times, you know, and stuff. But a lot of people don't. If you didn't live in those times, you didn't understand what it was all about. And so, just a minute. Let me get my V-tool here for a minute. Oops, I'm sorry. Hold on. Oh. I should have had it with me. Okay. I'm sorry. I should have had it with me, but I didn't. And now we can do this two ways. Okay. We can do it two ways. We can actually draw a little mustache on him, or we can just make the beard just the way it is. And let's go ahead and give him a little pants here. Let's just go ahead. We're just going to cut straight across here. Okay. And just cut little pants into him, in other words, just to make that livable. And let's go across the other side and do the same thing. And then we'll come out on the back here. It's in May, and soon the kids will be out of school. And I talked to my son the other day, and there is a good possibility that in the future, and I know I've talked about this, but it's getting to be more realistic right now, that I will be going and living in Kentucky.